Okay, so we have established where we feel the Mariners are right now, the state of the organization. Let's go ahead and get to what we could see coming up over the next couple of months and start with the needs.
First base. I'm going to start with first base.
You don't say.
And I'm going to keep shouting it for a while until Josh Naylor is here, signed with the Mariners for the next few years. It's, Brock and I always do these most irreplaceable lists. We just did it with the Seahawks the other day, and it's built off of not just how valuable a person is and how good they are at their job, but also how important that job is and what else is available to replace that person if they were to go away, injury or leave or whatever the case may be. Who are the most valuable and irreplaceable Mariners? Well, obviously Cal Raleigh is going to be at the top of that list, and obviously, Julio and the starting pitchers and Munoz. Like, there's a bunch of guys that you're going to put on there. But if you don't have Josh Naylor at first base, I don't know what first base looks like. It is not a position that is deep in their system at all. As good as the system is, there is not a natural fit at first base. Maybe they want to try to play Las Montez or Michael Arroyo there, but as of right now, there's no obvious fit at first base. Luke Raley is the only other guy on the roster, and I don't think they like that option very much for him to be your primary first baseman next year.
He's clearly not comfortable over there.
No, and he really had a tough year this year as well, so counting on that would be a mistake. If you are able to sign Polanco, and they haven't yet, maybe he's an option at first base, although I don't like that as much as Josh Naylor. And if it's not that, you're probably looking in the trade market, because I don't see Pete Alonso coming here. And after that, it gets rough. I don't love Bellinger as an option. I guess maybe they could. I'm not a big Bellinger fan, and I think his value is more in the outfield than it is at first base. So if it's not Josh Naylor, I look around and go, who's playing first base for this team?
Okay, let me throw this at you. Let's say they sign Naylor. That gets done. Let's say they sign Naylor and Polanco. That gets done. What does this team need? You can add something to this. Okay.
Then I would say, I'm all in on the Tariq Skubal conversation. And we got into this on the show, and everyone's like, why wouldn't you want Tariq Skubal? I'm like, I do. But not if you're not going to have Naylor and Polanco. And now I don't know whether this is a team that is worth investing in a 1-year ace rental with everything you'd have to give up to get Tariq Skubal. But if you tell me Josh Naylor's back and Jorge Polanco, and you're feeling pretty set at a few of these positions, and you've got other guys coming in, well, now I'm real willing to have a conversation about an ace, because we saw exactly what it does for a team like LA. And I'm not saying Skubal can throw, on 0 days less like Ryan would back in his day. That's right. Just big strapping young buck. He's like, oh, you need me every day? I'll just go right out there and throw again. But having an ace like Skubal would be my next priority. It's the one thing that I think they're missing.
1-year ace, okay.
I'm curious to see what Polanco does. Now, he's just obviously declined his player option, and 100%. You knew that was going to happen, right? And this is really his last chance, not last chance of free agency, but a last chance to get the security of multiple years. And so I look at that and say, okay, can the Mariners and him, they have that familiarity. He was obviously coming back from an injury. I know you want to go explore free agency because you get a chance to go multiple years here, and you're coming off a really nice September, even though he went ice cold there in May and June. But you're looking at that saying, can there be a way where there is that option to say, hey, let's tack on another year. Let's call it a player option in year 3 or whatever it may be, right? And keep the cost a little bit more manageable. Because I feel like if you're sitting here going, all right, what are our priorities? Naylor's going to take forever. I'm sorry. That's not going to get done quick. That's going to drag out.
Yeah. Now you can start talking about Ryan throwing the wet blanket on everything.
Well, because he's
instead
never
of
been
me.
a free agent before. I don't blame him.
He has all the time in the world.
He's waited forever to be a free agent and bet on himself over and over again.
Right.
And the hard part here is too with the Mariners, you look at it and say, okay, all right, you look at first base and you look at Polanco, right? Maybe second base or DH, whatever that. Then you look over the other side of the field and say, all right, third base. Is there a way to somehow, with all this stock you have in the farm system, not saying that you're going to give all that up for just a 1 year, but you have a situation where you can give up some pieces there for a controllable someone who doesn't have a choice because he's coming over via trade and he's under team control for 3 to 5 years or something. But you kind of have to wait and see with that what you have going in regards to what you're spending and what you're going to give up. If you're talking pitching, is it a situation? I hate to see this, but you're looking at Castillo's making what, $22 million next year, right? He had a nice year last year. He's attractive to a lot of teams. Is it a situation where, all right, we're willing to wheel and deal a little bit, way more than we were at 12 months ago, to figure out some control over that third base, and then you can get maybe a 1 year or something in regards to starting pitching, but then you can, and then I love the Tariq Skubal thing, don't get me wrong. But
yeah, man. I mean, would you give up George Kirby to get Tariq Skubal?
Nope.
I would.
Yeah, what are you going to do next year? I mean,
well,
because you're also throwing in
that
prospects. You're also, got to figure it out.
But you've got three or four guys that are coming, and so
you have 3 or 4.
Yeah, don't you? I mean, I think you think that Saintra and Sloan and Anderson.
So you're taking for granted that you're going to have another Gilbert, Wu.
I look
Kirby
at that. If you're
I'm willing to go all in if I really believe that Naylor is there, and I've got a team that I think can put up the same kind of offense as last year. I'm willing to take a few more chances.
So they're all going to appear the next year and be what this group has been for the last 4 years?
I don't know that, but
I think you're leaving yourself very short at that point.
Maybe. To me, that's more of an educated bet.
If it was for more than a year, I would be for that. But for a year, you have to ask, well, what happens next year at that point?
Yeah, and I still feel like, too, if looking at the end of the ALCS, right, and is this the start of something, you still have to look at this and say, all right, go at a place where we have got something for 3 to 5, of course, right? And that's kind of the foundation. Then we figure out from there. I'm not big on banking on, even if you got 3 guys in the minor leagues, in a Cade Anderson and Sloan now. I'm willing to bank on them if we maybe see a couple starts or what they do in the first couple of years in AA and AAA. Going into next year but until they actually get here and you really figure it out, I'm not big on
have some level of faith in your farm system. I mean, to me, that's part of it.
No, but they can't. They don't just instantly appear and we can replace George Kirby.
But I didn't say it's instant.
We can replace Luis Castillo. Do you know how hard it would be to replace Luis Castillo?
Well, for the record, I'm not talking about replacing Luis Castillo. I wasn't talking about doing both of those things.
No, not both.
To me, it's like, hey, if you really believe you're a great team next year and have a possibility of being where you were, do you trade George Kirby, giving up a little bit of your future for a right now with Tariq Skubal?
A little bit. That's not a little bit of your future.
Well, it's what he's got after this year. How many more years is Kirby?
But you're also giving up more than George Kirby. George Kirby alone is not going to get that done.
All right. But I'm willing to start the conversation there and see where it goes because I have some level of faith in what's coming. Okay. Like you're giving yourself an opportunity to be even better next year, but I got to know more about how the rest of the roster shapes up. That's why I love your Polanco conversation. To me, he's such an interesting linchpin because I could write you a script where I say, look, you got to have Jorge Polanco back. He did for you, the versatility, second base, first base, DH, switch hitter. Cal's got a DH sometimes, so he gives you the opportunity to be a DH, but then go into there's so many ways he fits the roster, and he was clutch. But I could also turn around and be like, really? You want to start investing in Jorge Polanco as he gets into his 30s after you had to nurse him through the year this year just to make sure he could walk.
But that's what I'm saying. The cost of that, if you were in a situation where, look, put it this way. If he cost you $10 million for the next 2 years, are you willing to wear the third year and who knows? Maybe
that's where you're at. I mean, right now, I would be throwing everything at Naylor and Polanco because your overpays for them. You're talking $2, $3, $4 million, as opposed to we're going to roll the dice on a third baseman from Japan who can't hit a fastball over 92 miles an hour.
You and I agree.
And we're going to have the long term. Take a couple million more.
Whatever I can do to get Josh
And if that solidifies where you are, well, I think Polanco is just as important. Strangely enough, because of the flexibility that he now brings, particularly with young players, young infielders coming in and expected. You could DH, you could put him at first base.
Yep.
You can put him at second.
You have these kind of interesting, I'm not sure what the right word is. They're not challenges, but they're like little roster quirks. Like, hey, you got Cal Raleigh, who's the best catcher in baseball. But you kind of want to DH him a lot because you can't play him every day behind the plate. And so a full-time DH is a bit of a challenge for the Mariners because you want to be able to put Cal there. Okay, so Polanco fits really well because he can DH on those days. But then you got this young second baseman who you like, right? And Cole Young, you want to be able to run him out there. But You want to expose them to lefties every time? I don't know if you really want to do that, and you don't know how real what it all. So Polanco can slide in there, and Naylor, hey, he's really great against righties. And he's last 2 years are really the only times he's played a whole season. So Polanco has a really nice potential fit at first base. I love his fit.
Well,
so I'm with you. I'm not trying to poo-poo the Polanco thing at all. I think he's an interesting fit for the Mariners.
To your point, too, the Mariners have done a nice job the last couple of years with that roster versatility. If you all of a sudden get to a place where, we have to have, Polanco playing this position constantly, and you handcuff the ability to DH a Cal roll and get him off his legs, that they've done an amazing job of having that versatility, and then having guys slide in and out of that DH. Yeah, for multiple reasons, especially Cal is a big one.
So let me ask you the horrifying question. I'll be the bad guy for a minute and ask you the horrifying question. What if Cal hits 30 home runs next year? Because because you could write for all we just said about the incredible season they just had, and it was incredible. It was a magical run. What if Cal had hit 30 home runs this past year instead of 60? Are we having any of these conversations? Are we talking about them having, won the AL West and won beaten the Tigers and been a couple outs away from beating the Blue Jays? I don't know what would have happened if Cal just had what had previously been a Cal year. And I'm not saying he's going to return to being a 30 home run hitter. I think he's probably now. I'm hoping for 40, 45.
In other words, you're saying in 2026, put Cal up for 30 home runs. Put it at that. What does the offense look like, in other words? Yeah.
No, go back in time. What did the offense in 2025 look like if Cal had
so
only
let
hit 30
let me
home runs?
ask this, because it was really kind of interesting to see it and to try and I think it's this, and then go back and look at the numbers, and I was like, it really wasn't, but it was this during times of the year and this at other times of the year. What should their balance be? I mean, they have been so pitching forward, and it seemed like, the offense finally carried this year, and they were a very offensive club. Yeah, they scored a lot more runs this year, and the pitching kind of took a step backwards, but their run differential was still very similar to what it's been the last few years, which is crazy. So I think it was different times of the year that we saw it. So what is that balance? What do they need to be as a team? What kind of team do they need to be? Was this it this year? And do you need a 60 home run? Obviously not. But I mean, do you?
Can't live with that one. Gotta have 60 home runs.
Now that we've had
you don't have a 60 home run threat, you might as well pack it in.
55. It's like Cal's taking. That was a bad deal. That long
I don't know. Aaron Judge has had a few 50s. Maybe he'll have another one.
I think it's what makes the Mariners season so interesting, and people hate this conversation because it sounds like you're trashing the team or saying that they're not going to be as good or they're going to take a step back. I find it interesting to be in Jerry and Justin's shoes and say, okay, how real was this? Is how much of this was real? How much of it was Cal making a big step forward that is going to be repeatable? How much of this was a down American League and especially AL West, and we don't know whether that's going to look different next year, and what the Rangers do and what the Astros do, and there's new managers, and Oakland's getting better, Vegas is getting whatever they are, Sacramento's getting better, the A's are getting better.
Right.
If you have to take that. You have to be realistic.
Yeah.
You can't be pie in the sky as a GM. You might be able to do it as a fan. That's fun, or a member of the media. But they have to realistically think about that. Can we keep Polanco healthy for another year doing what we did last year? Keeping him off his feet. Is that realistic? Can Cal be all right, maybe not 60, but 47 home run guy this next year? All of those have to be taken into account when you're trying to determine what you think and project your lineup and your roster is going to look like. And it's not unreasonable to assume that there's going to be some steps back there. JP is another year older. Where is his defense at this point? We haven't even mentioned his name, and I actually think he could be, if you want to go down that road, a linchpin for making some changes to how your infield looks, if you want to go down that road. Randy Arozarena was, Shannon, as you've mentioned a couple times, not very good in the last couple months of the season, and especially in the postseason. He's getting a big fat raise this year, is another year of arbitration. Do you want to go through that with Randy, or is that he's been the best left fielder you've had here since ever? I mean, a really, really, really long time. Yeah. So all of these are. It's why I love this offseason, because you could look at it and say, this team's set, man. Let's go. They were a couple pitches away. Let's rock and roll and go big. And you could also look at it and be like, a lot of question marks that got to be worked out before you commit to anything.
Well, one of the other things, though, is that a lot of the time, everything that you just mentioned was offensive, and they did not have their starting pitching
True.
for
Well,
a good
that's all
amount of
true.
the season.
That's a great
so
point.
if you double and triple down on the starting pitching next year, which I've been saying for 3 years now.
Yes, you're right.
3 years now. I mean, how does that balance?
So back to your question in regards to how this team should balance out. If you could, and this is the boring answer, but I said this even going into 2025. If you can have, you mentioned the injuries, right? So Bryce missed a ton of time. B looked good at the end of the year. Nothing going on this offseason in regards to hold him back to start April off. You had Logan Gilbert miss, 7 weeks, I believe it was, on the IL. Came back. It took him a little bit. He wasn't the same guy as 2024. George Kirby, a shoulder injury. It's always a little tougher to come back. He's a little bit more inconsistent. If you could have, short answer here, a mid-range offense and the pitching live up to their capabilities with some additions,
That'd be great.
then you're good. And then you get to the trade deadline, and you have the ability to add. And just back to Mike's point, going into this offseason, I think that they are in a really good spot because, and I'm not trying to play GM here, but you've got a situation where Randy Arozarena is nearly making $20 million in arbitration this year. And look, he had a great year last year. Don't get me wrong, but there was times, man, where you really needed him to step up,
He had
especially
a
down
bad
that
second
stretch.
half.
Bad second half.
Really good first half.
Right, and even too with some of these ads, like Gino wasn't the same guy, hit under 200, and didn't have the same slugging OPS, nowhere near what he was having when you grabbed him from Arizona. But if you can look at that and say, all right, there's simple things. Obviously, cut down the swing and miss. The same, the power numbers can be mid-range, and then you can add in regards to the starting pitching. And you figure out maybe some of these, again, this is banking a lot, but there's a couple of reclamation projects out there in the bullpen. You can get on the cheap a little bit to add to that bullpen. If you go into it that way, there's plenty of room to fix on the margins.
I do like the idea of fixing hitting on the margins. I agree with that. I think trying to, Shannon, your first question when we started this was, what have you learned this year? And again, I don't know if this is something we just learned this year, but I don't know how anyone in the world has any freaking clue what one hitter is going to do from one year to another. I don't know.
Yeah.
What Randy Arozarena is going to show up next year. Do you have any idea which Randy you're going to get next year? Let's say you were to re-sign Gino Suarez. I don't feel like that's likely to happen, but let's say you did. What Gino Suarez are you going to get? Which one have you gotten for the last 3 years? At times, he's the best hitter in baseball, and at times, he's the worst. Like, I don't know how which Jorge Polanco are you going to get? What if you get the Jorge Polanco from 2 years ago? And
what if you get the Polanco from May and June?
Which was the Polanco from 2 years
yeah.
ago. He couldn't hit. He was nearly cut halfway through, not this past year, but the year before, 2024. Like, you want to bet 3 years on Jorge Polanco, knowing that just 2 years ago, this entire city wanted him run out of town on a rail.
But he has a history. When he's healthy,
I know
he hits.
that. But the point being, and I know there's a big health, and they may have figured that out. How in the world do you have any clue what these guys? Did anyone in the world think Cal Raleigh was going to hit 60 home runs? What J.P. Crawford are you going to get next year? Sometimes you get the 3.5 win J.P. Crawford,
Pitching
and
is that
sometimes
much more
you get a guy who
important
can't hit.
It's much more predictable.
So I'm with you. I do think that pitching is more predictable. Shannon, you're absolutely right. The more you can make sure, and that's kind of why I like the Skubal idea, even if it's only 1 year. And we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm with you. If there are ways to make sure the pitching is great, but I also don't want to be rolling out the Rowdy Telezes of the world either. Like, you've got to find a way to make sure that you've got a competent offense, and then, as Ryan said, add to it when the time comes.
That's a great point. I don't want a situation where you're building this side of your team, that side of your team, and then all of a sudden you get to the end of spring training and nothing is Rowdy Telez. But you don't want a situation where playing majority against righties and pitching 70% of the time, you've got Rowdy Telez.
And we've seen that. Mike Ford and Rowdy Telez, and a bunch of these guys. Like, that's why I keep coming back to first base. I'm traumatized. Like, I want a real first baseman. I don't think that's too much to ask. And obviously the answer to the question becomes, okay, if I can't predict what Randy's going to do or what Polanco's going to do, or any of these guys, get as many good ones as you can and hope that it worked, that enough of them have a good year that you can, have some success.
Let's wrap this one up with pick a wild card for this team next year. Somebody who you were counting to be on it. And I think we'll probably do this again. You can't
Tariq
answer
Skubal.
Josh Naylor anymore, Mike.
You've got the wheels turning now with Tariq Skubal. I'm like, oh.
And we will, in the weeks to come,
My
we
God.
can get into some names,
Yeah.
some things that can happen along. I think we're setting a good foundation here. But when you look at this team, Wildcard to be an absolute impact player for this, a difference maker for this team next year.
Well, I got two. I got one, Logan Gilbert getting back to 2024. I feel like
How?
man,
What did you're a pitcher? How? What
I'm
did
not
you?
going to sit here and say I know this is something he's going to try and work on a little bit of that safety net where you get some sort of movement on that fastball to get weaker contact in between all the swing and miss and the 6 pitch at bats. I just feel like if there's something there with him. The way he goes back into the year and say, man, I threw a ton of pitches to get guys out. It's an easy fix. It's a low-hanging fruit for me with him. And not to mention the fact missing the time. I'm not saying, you never know, knock on wood, be healthy. The other one is too, if Julio, this goes without saying, second half player, you feel like each year he's cutting into that first half faster and faster. He's cutting out the noise in regards to what his approach should be back and forth. If you can see him, if he can figure that out, whatever, have a cold April, but figure that out, May. Say, no, this is who I am. I'm old enough now. I've been here at this level. I'm counteracting what they're doing against me. He could have a monster
What if you
year.
get 50 home run Julio?
Right.
50 home run,
Right.
30 bags. Like, that's not out of line. I love your answers. I kind of want to steal both of them. So I'll go, because I really like both of Ryan's answers. I think Logan Gilbert. Could he throw more of a two-seamer or more of a cutter?
No,
something?
he can't throw a cutter. That's the problem.
He just can't.
He's
Okay.
just
Bad
in
angle.
regards to how he's on the ball. But
Yeah.
that's something he's messing with though right now.
Just something.
He gets
Yeah,
him
I
off
love your
barrel.
thought.
Yeah.
All right, if those two are not available to me as options, my wild card for the offseason would have been JP, because I just think that how you choose to handle JP gives you a lot of other options and how you want to use some of your young players. If you're looking for a potential impact player next year, for me, the two guys offensively would either be Randy, because he's capable of it. He just needs to put it together for a longer period of time. And he's just so multiple. I mean, just his ability to run and hit for power and get on base. Like, I just love him so much as a player. Randy, let me love you. Like, just do it more consistently so you
What
can
would
be my
Josh
favorite
say?
player. I know. And then, the guy who just had a completely lost season, and I'm not banking on him, I think is Robles, right? I mean, it was such a lost season. He didn't do anything. He was hurt all year. Credit to him for even coming back at all. That right field one is another one where you're looking at it like, okay, you were banking on Robles. Am I the only one who thought Dominic Canzone was a 4A player? And now I'm like, oh, wait, maybe he's actually a major leaguer. And then I watched the postseason and I was like, oh, maybe he's not more than just a 4A player. I don't know. So, like, I could name any. You could really name almost anybody, but I'll give you those two, Randy and Robles, as possibilities to have a lot more impact than they did this past year.
I think Randy too. He hurt his hamstring early, shut him down because I was like, man, okay, just keep stealing these bags. Keep wreak havoc on the bases. Hurt his hamstring early, and that kind of, there was that period
Really?
there.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he
And he only
posted
I think he only had
it
2
was-
games off, if
My
that.
God, did
yeah,
he
but
post this year?
he shut down on the running. He shut it down. And I was like, man, because he coming out of April, I'm like, man, he is just.
That is the
And
challenge.
that's
though,
when he
right?
wasn't leading off at that point, but he was still running. I'm like, I love the fact when Randy's getting on base.
Yeah.
But then he hurt his hamstring, was still playing, but he shut down the running. I was like, man, that could have been even more of an impact. But the Robles one is a good one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when he's doing what he does at his best, he's like their perfect player, right? He's got a little bit of pop. He can run around. He plays great defense.
You talking Robles? Or
Yeah, well, I guess it's either of them. But yeah, I was talking specifically about Robles.
because he was your leadoff hitter, and you lost that, especially
Right.
Yeah,
especially those last couple of months.
yeah. And they need a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, they do.
They, that's on the list.
That
or
was
it
pretty
should be on
clear in the
list.
postseason that they didn't really have a leadoff hitter to go out and do that thing. And Robles is supposed to be that guy. I mean, you really want to think big. There is a right fielder available in free agency this offseason. If you really want to go get make your team great. I know Lyle's brought this up a few times, but Kyle Tucker's pretty good.
Oh, man.
He'd be pretty good in right field.
Well, we've got time to talk about that. Guys, I appreciate it. Mike, go take your nap, and You're going to Disneyland.
Apparently, yeah.
Isn't your whole life Disneyland?
No, it was just
I imagine
a
Ryan just
thing.
living a Disney life.
It was a last minute thing. Amanda got these tickets from Costco months ago, and she goes, "Oh man, we're going to use these." Although I'm like, hey, "Really?" So now flights are through the roof. I'm like, "All right, I guess we're going to do it this weekend." So there we go, off to Disneyland.
What's your
Not
favorite
complaining.
ride?
No, I want to do there's a Star Wars one I haven't done that everyone else has done. Apparently, it's epic. It feels like you're actually on the.
I went the Cars
whatever
one.
the
I like
ship.
the Cars ride.
Yeah, it's always fun.
All right.
Yeah. I'm a big Cars fan.
Guys, thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.